Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're opening the book on a story that, well, for nearly 2 decades, felt like the gold standard of celebrity romance.
Yeah.
You know, the kind that seemed totally immune to the usual Hollywood pressures.
That's right. Our mission today is really a deep dive into that 19-year relationship between Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban. And what's fascinating about the source materials isn't just what happened, but maybe how it unfolded.
Okay.
These reports focus pretty intensely on the contrast between their public image, that unshakable look, and the subtle, almost silent signs that things were ending in 2025.
Signs like,
Specifically, the sources point to Keith's uneasy words and eventually his just complete silence on the matter.
right, the hook is powerful because they survived so much early on, didn't they? They really defied the odds.
Yeah.
But the analysis suggests the end wasn't some big scandal.
No explosion, no.
Yeah.
More like a quiet drift, almost imperceptible from the outside.
Okay, so to really get the weight of that final silence, we should probably start at the beginning, maybe look at Nicole's early background, because it wasn't what you might expect.
It definitely adds layers. We see Nicole Kidman now, this elegant, Oscar winner, but she was born back in '67 in Honolulu, actually.
In Honolulu, I always forget that.
Yeah, her Aussie parents were studying there. Her dad, Anthony, he was a psychologist and biochemist, quite academic.
And the part that always gets me, given her career path, is that she was apparently incredibly shy as a kid.
Right. Struggled with a stutter, the reports say.
Yeah, and acting became her way out, like an escape from that timidity.
Exactly. It let her become someone else, which, when you think about it, makes her handling of this super high-profile marriage later even more interesting psychologically.
Absolutely, mastering that public persona early on. Okay, so fast forward to 2005. She's an icon. He's country music charm.
Yeah, Keith Urban, they meet at the G-Day USA Gala in L.A., talk about different worlds colliding. Hollywood elegance meets Nashville cool.
And Nicole felt it instantly.
Apparently, yes. An instant crush. But then, nothing.
Waiting game.
For 4 months, he didn't call. The analysis suggests he was genuinely, maybe intimidated, overwhelmed by her global stature.
That makes sense. And it makes the big gesture even bigger.
Totally. The story she tells is Keith showing up at her apartment doorstep, 5 a.m., on her 38th birthday.
5 in the morning.
Holding a bouquet of gardenias. And she said that spontaneous move, that gesture, convinced her he was serious.
Okay, so that sealed the deal. They get married in Sydney, June 2006, a fairytale wedding.
Looked like it, but then, bam, crisis hits almost immediately.
How soon?
Just 4 months after the wedding, Nicole discovers Keith's really significant struggle with alcohol and substances.
4 months. That's unthinkable timing. It would have been so easy to just walk away.
You'd think so, but sources say she staged what they call a bold intervention, really pushed him to get professional help immediately.
And he did.
He checked into rehab for 3 months, and Keith himself has said many times since, that she might have saved his life. He felt very, very blessed she stepped in like that.
So that moment, that crisis, it actually created their public image in a way, the resilient couple.
Exactly. They weren't just glamorous anymore. They were survivors. They fought for their love. It set this incredibly high bar for public perception.
But doesn't surviving something that huge, that public, early on, doesn't that almost set you up for impossible expectations later? Like if you can beat that, you can beat anything. Makes the marriage scene bulletproof.
It does create a kind of narrative trap, doesn't it? Because once you've put out the wildfire, maybe you don't notice the slow rot setting in afterwards. It's much less dramatic.
Harder to spot.
Even for them, maybe.
Yeah.
But externally, that image just got stronger as they started building their family. Which brings us to the next phase, building that unshakable image.
Right, parenthood. That always seems to cement things in the public eye. Their first daughter, Sunday Rose.
Born in Nashville, 2008. And you hear stories like Keith supposedly flying halfway across the world just for an ultrasound appointment, little details painting this picture of devotion.
Underscores the commitment, yeah.
And then Faith Margaret arrived late 2010 via surrogate. So the family grows, the picture looks even more solid, more complete.
And they weathered personal storms too, right? Like when Nicole's father died.
Yeah, 2014, Dr. Anthony Kidman's death was sudden, unexpected. Reports really highlight Keith's support then. He flew straight back from the U.S., canceled shows.
And he sang at the funeral.
Performed Amazing Grace, a very moving, very public display of partnership during real, profound grief. It wasn't just PR, it felt genuine.
It shows they had these deep connection points. And Didn't Nicole mention some daily ritual they had?
She did. Advice from a family priest, apparently. Always kiss hello and kiss goodbye. It suggests they were consciously trying to weave these small, affectionate routines into their crazy schedules, actively fighting the distance.
Little anchors.
Exactly. And for years, it seemed to work. Right up until early 2025, that public veneer was just flawless. Attending big events, the ACM Awards, FIFA Club World Cup, always together, always touching, smiling.
And Nicole was still calling him her deep, deep love
Mhm.
in interviews just months before it all fell apart, right? April 2024.
Yeah, reinforcing that perfect picture to the very end, which of course makes the next part even more jarring.
Okay, so if the public picture was flawless, where did the sources start picking up on the quiet cracks, the quiet drift?
Well, according to insiders, the whispers started in early 2025. Just rumors at first, spending more time apart, the usual stuff. But the key internal sign, reports indicate, was that Keith had quietly set up his own place.
Ah, not a public separation, but a physical one.
Exactly, the physical manifestation of that emotional distance that must have been growing.
And you could kind of see them trying to manage the optics, maybe, on social media?
The analysis points that out, yeah. A subtle shift. Posts became more selective, more polished, almost too perfect, you know? Like they were curating this image, putting a mask over something fragile happening privately.
While he's reportedly creating this distance, setting up his own place, what was Nicole doing?
Reports say she was blindsided and deeply hurt, really fought hard to save the marriage, leaning heavily on her sister, Antonia, for support.
You can almost feel that pain in something she said just weeks before the split went public.
Oh, that quote about life's direction.
Yeah. How many times do you have to be taught that you think you know where your life is going, and then it isn't going in that direction? Oof.
It really captures that feeling of being totally unmoored, doesn't it? Thinking you're heading one way and ending up somewhere completely different. Helplessness.
And it made the public signal so confusing. Because right up until the end,
She was fighting for it publicly. Just days before the headlines broke, she posts this heartfelt anniversary message to Keith on Instagram. Sweet photo, caption, "Happy anniversary, baby."
wow, that contrast is stark. Who wanting to hold on versus the reality unfolding.
Exactly. Which brings us right to the core of this analysis. Keith's behavior, his subtle admission, and the final end. The sources really stress how his demeanor, his few words in interviews, became the loudest evidence.
How so?
Well, for nearly 2 decades, Keith was always warm, open, visibly proud when talking about Nicole. You could see it. But by the summer of 2025, observers noted that tone changed dramatically. His reluctance to even discuss her became really significant.
And there were specific moments, weren't there? Key interview clues.
2 stand out in the reports. First, an Australian radio interview. Pretty standard question, really did fate bring them together. Romantic, easy.
Usually a softball for them.
Right. But this time, he grew visibly uncomfortable. He hesitated awkwardly and finally just muttered he had no idea.
No idea. After years of selling the fairy tale.
Exactly. That hesitation, stepping back from the romantic narrative they'd built, it spoke volumes. Reports even noted he physically unbuttoned his jacket, like trying to release tension.
Wow. Okay, and the second clue.
Maybe even more telling. He was talking to Ryan Seacrest. Seacrest asked the usual question about balancing their insane schedules, something Keith usually loved to talk about, giving anecdotes.
Yeah, how do they make it work?
This time, just a short, cold reply. It's a job.
Ouch. It's a job.
Yeah.
That's clinical.
Isn't it? Strips all the emotion out. Like, managing the logistics was all that was left. The analysis suggests he felt it had become purely operational, not a partnership fueled by passion anymore.
Just 3 words, no enthusiasm. So the sources are saying these moments, these uneasy exchanges.
And his avoidance of the topic later, that became his real confession. His discomfort, his clipped answers, his silence, it spoke louder than any statement he could have made. He didn't need to announce it. His behavior did.
The body language told the story.
Pretty much. And then there was this phrase captured somewhere, "Life is in session."
Life is in session. What does that even mean?
Vague, right. But it suggested acceptance moving forward. Almost like, okay, this chapter's closed internally, time to deal with the reality.
A resignation, almost.
Feels like it. And the timeline backs up that internal separation. Nicole officially filed for divorce in Nashville on September 30th, 2025. Cited irreconcilable differences. 19 years.
And then? Radio silence from both of them publicly.
Which just deepened the mystery of this quiet unraveling. And brings us back to the main insight here.
Okay, let's pull it together. What's the big takeaway?
What's really fascinating analytically isn't a big scandal, it's about the nature of how relationships can end. They survive the massive dramatic crises early on the intervention, the grief, huge tests.
The things the public sees and applauds them for overcoming.
Exactly. But what seemingly did them in was the slower, quieter enemy, that cumulative drift. Life. Two massive global careers pulling them in different directions. The distance that just adds up, day by day, year by year.
Much harder to stage an intervention against that, isn't it, than, say, an addiction crisis. It's insidious.
Totally. Maybe they were victors of their own success, in a way, the sheer complexity of it all.
And the sources suggest Keith's discomfort, his silence. That was his admission. Which leaves us with a final thought for you, listening.
Yeah, provocative question, maybe. If a relationship looks so perfect on the red carpet under the spotlights, how much of its real health can actually be hidden by those polished smiles?
And maybe more importantly, what subtle shifts in communication, like those short answers, the hesitation Keith showed. Avoiding a topic entirely, what are those telling us? Are those the first unspoken signs that partners are already quietly moving in completely different directions long before anyone files the papers?
Something to think about.
A really complex and ultimately kind of quietly sad end to what felt like a defining Hollywood love story. Thank you for taking this deep dive with us.